It is just before 6:45 in the morning. The city is barely awake. Steam rises from manhole covers. A man in a navy overcoat walks toward a hotel, briefcase in one hand, coffee in the other. He has a presentation to give, numbers to defend, a future to sell. He does not see the figure waiting on the sidewalk behind him. He does not hear the slide of a silenced 9mm pistol, because the silencer is doing its job. 3 shots, 3 shell casings hit the concrete and roll to a stop. And on those casings, someone has carved 3 words, 1 word per bullet. A message left behind for the world to read while the man bleeds out on the sidewalk. He dies before his family can say goodbye. But here is what makes this case different from every other execution-style murder you have ever heard about. The man holding the gun was not a mob hitman, not a gang member, not a stranger off the grid. He was an Ivy League valedictorian, a 26-year-old computer science graduate from one of Maryland's wealthiest families. And the most disturbing part, by the end of the week, millions of Americans would be calling him a hero. The victim's name is Brian Thompson, 50 years old, CEO of United Healthcare, the largest health insurance company in America. He grew up in Iowa, graduated from the University of Iowa in 1997 with a degree in business administration, started his career as a certified public accountant at PwC, then spent more than 20 years climbing the ladder inside United Health Group. In April 2021, he was named CEO of the company's flagship insurance division, a division that employs roughly 140,000 people and touches the lives of nearly 50 million Americans. In 2023, his total compensation was $10.2 million, but the people who knew him didn't talk about the money, they talked about the man. His sister-in-law called him a good father. Former colleagues described him as humble, a servant leader. He lived in a quiet Minneapolis suburb called Maple Grove with his wife Paulette and their 2 teenage sons. He was the kind of executive who flew under the radar. No tabloid presence, no social media presence. Just a quiet man in a quiet suburb running one of the most powerful corporations on earth. And on the morning of December 4th, 2024, he flew to New York for an investor conference. He never flew home. The shooting happens at 6:44 a.m. local time, outside the New York Hilton Midtown on 54th Street. According to the NYPD, the gunman had been waiting in the dark for several minutes, lying in wait. He knew Brian Thompson was staying at a hotel across the street. He knew Thompson would walk this exact route to the investor event. It is captured on surveillance video from at least 3 different angles. 3 bullets are fired. Thompson is struck in the back and the leg. He stumbles forward, falls to the pavement, and the gunman walks away, calm, deliberate, disappearing onto a waiting electric city bike, heading northbound on 6th Avenue, then vanishing into Central Park. By 6:48 a.m., he is gone. Inside the hotel, United Health Group CEO Andrew Whitty is moments away from kicking off the company's investor day. He interrupts the presentation. He tells the room there has been a serious medical situation involving a colleague. The event is canceled. By that evening, the largest manhunt in recent New York City history is underway. Photos of a man in a hooded jacket and a medical face mask flood every news network in the country. But here is the question that should be burning a hole through your screen right now. How does a masked gunman in the most surveilled city on planet Earth walk out of Manhattan and simply disappear? According to the federal complaint, the shooter had been preparing for months. Prosecutors say he traveled from out of state, checked into a hostel on Manhattan's Upper West Side on November 24th, 10 days before the killing, using a fake New Jersey driver's license. He paid in cash. He kept his face covered, even indoors. The gun itself was not registered to anyone. It couldn't be, because according to investigators, it was a so-called ghost gun, a 9mm pistol that was 3D printed at home. No serial number, no purchase record, no paper trail. The silencer? Also 3D printed. On the morning of the shooting, prosecutors say he left the hostel on an e-bike at 5:34 a.m., bought a water bottle and 2 granola bars at a Starbucks, then took up position outside the Hilton at roughly 6:15 a.m. and waited. After the killing, he didn't fly, he didn't drive. He boarded a Greyhound bus. For 5 days, he moved across state lines. Quietly, carefully, almost a ghost. And he might have stayed a ghost forever, if not for a woman at a McDonald's in Altoona, Pennsylvania, who looked up from the counter on the morning of December 9th and recognized the eyebrows of the man eating a McMuffin in the back booth. She called 911. Police arrived within minutes. When they asked the man to lower his face mask, they say he matched. When they searched his backpack, they say they found everything. The ghost gun, the silencer, a fake ID, a passport, and a 3-page handwritten document that prosecutors would later refer to as a manifesto. His name was Luigi Nicholas Mangione. And nothing about him added up. The autopsy is brutal in its simplicity. Brian Thompson was shot in the back and the lower leg with hollow .9mm rounds. He died on the sidewalk before paramedics could stabilize him. He was 50 years old. The shell casings recovered at the scene. Those 3 engraved bullets that I mentioned at the top of this video, NYPD Chief of Detectives Joseph Kenney confirmed they were marked with the words deny, defend, and depose. 3 words that mirror the title of a 2010 book criticizing the insurance industry. A book called Delay, Deny, Defend, about the tactics insurance companies allegedly use to avoid paying out claims. And that is the moment this story stopped being about one man's murder and started being about an entire country's rage. Within 48 hours, the alleged killer had a fan base, memes, t-shirts, a give-send-go legal defense fund that has now exceeded $1.4 million in public donations, crowds outside the courthouse chanting "Free Luigi" at every hearing. Pause for a moment. I want to hear from you in the comments. Be honest. Was this a moment of unfiltered cultural anger? Or something darker than that? Drop your thoughts. I read them all. Let's be specific. In New York State, Luigi Mangione faces 9 felony counts, including second-degree murder under New York Penal Law, Section 125.25. That single charge alone carries a maximum sentence of 25 years to life in prison. In September 2025, State Supreme Court Judge Gregory Caro dismissed 2 terrorism-related charges from his indictment, ruling them legally insufficient. The remaining charges still stand. At the federal level, prosecutors initially charged Mangione with 4 counts, including murder through use of a firearm with a silencer, a count that made him eligible for the federal death penalty. Attorney General Pam Bondi announced she had directed prosecutors to pursue capital punishment, but on January 30th, 2026, Federal District Judge Margaret Garnett dismissed the murder count. Mangione will not face the death penalty. He still faces 2 federal stalking counts, each carrying a maximum sentence of life without parole. His state trial is scheduled to begin September 8, 2026. His federal trial follows on October 13, 2026. Mangione has pleaded not guilty to every single charge. He is presumed innocent under the law until a jury says otherwise. And in the most recent twist, on June 17, 2026, his attorneys announced they would pursue a psychiatric defense, arguing he was experiencing extreme emotional disturbance at the time of the killing. 24 hours later, they withdrew it. No public explanation, just a sealed filing and silence. Here is what nobody can answer yet. How does a kid, a valedictorian, a Penn-educated computer scientist, a young man whose family literally owns country clubs and nursing homes in Maryland, end up allegedly hiding behind a hostel pillar with a homemade gun and 3 engraved bullets? His former classmates can't explain it. His family released a statement saying they were shocked and devastated. A roommate from Hawaii said he had grown increasingly isolated, complaining of chronic back pain and what he called brain fog. But isolation does not explain a flight to Manhattan. It does not explain a 3D printed pistol. It does not explain 3 words engraved on 3 pieces of brass. So I want to ask you directly. Drop a comment below. What do you believe is the one piece of this story we still haven't been told? The one detail that could change everything once the trial begins? I will be reading every reply. 2 families have been destroyed. One because a father will never come home. The other because a son they thought they knew now sits in a federal jail in Brooklyn, facing the rest of his life behind bars. A trial is coming. Witnesses will testify. Evidence will be challenged. And 12 strangers will be asked to decide what really happened on a Manhattan sidewalk at 6:44 in the morning. If this case has stayed with you the way it has stayed with me, hit the like button. Subscribe so you don't miss the trial coverage. And share this video with someone who still believes they know how this story ends. Because the truth is, this story is only just beginning.